Hello and welcome everybody to week 4 of the Workout Wednesday CRM Analytics series. Let's have a look what they have for us this week. The name of the challenge this week is called Interactions and Custom Queries. Let's see what it's all about. This week we are going to continue working on the dashboard from last week. We will add some new functionality with interactions and custom queries. Last week we saw that when we click on a specific graph, by default there was some interaction going on in our dashboard. Making use of the settings, we made sure that when we click on the second graph, this one doesn't change and this one does change. Now this week we will go one step further. As you can see in the solution, what they are asking us is that we provide 3 text labels, being product family, type, and billing country. And apologies, it's a little bit slow in the Giphy, but what actually happens is by making a selection, a dynamic grouping is being fed to widgets, meaning, as you can see, when we click product family here, the group by will become product family. When we click type, the expectation is that our group by becomes type, etc. Until recently, the way to go would be going into edit mode. What you would do is going to the file and start editing the JSON to set up the bindings. As we will see today, this has become slightly more elegant to set this up, but we will approach this in a step-by-step fashion. So the first thing what we will do is we'll start from our dashboard from last week, go to the top right of your screen, hit clone in tab, get the title of this week's challenge, Ctrl+C, Ctrl+V. There you go. And we are going to save our new little dashboard. We can get rid of last week's version. To tidy things up, maybe delete all the things that are not required in our output, and then we are left with the 2 graphs we are going to work with. First of all, the binding for this week will make use of a toggle that contains 3 values: product family, type, and billing country. So the very first thing what we will need to do is go to the top right of your screen and hit create query. This time we are not actually selecting an existing dataset. We will make use of the option create custom query. You can keep the first column name display because that's literally what it is. What you type here are the values that your end user will be seeing in your dashboard. So for the first one, we can type product family, hit enter, add text, type, and then the last one, what was it? Billing country. Now, there is a difference between display values and the actual values that Salesforce under the hood uses. So for the second column, these will be the actual values that we will parse into the JSON, and that will result in the graphs dynamically changing their group bys. So we can hit add column. We're going to add dimensions, string labels, and this time we do select the dataset. Why so? Because here we're going to list the actual columns used for the group by. Group by, enter. First one, PR, product family, then type, because it corresponds to opportunity type, and the billing country. That's it. We're going to hit done. Do notice that not much has changed on the dashboard. The only thing that has happened is that here on the right, we do have a static underscore 1 query waiting to be added to your dashboard. I set a selector, so we are going to grab toggle. We're going to grab and drop it in our toggle. There we go. I'm nicely gonna spread it across the screen, and voila. here we are, we have a toggle filled with the values we just specified. Notice that this is a dead object. It by no means has an effect on the graphs that already reside in our dashboard. Now first things first, we want this to be a single select required toggle. To do so, click once on the widget, head to the right side and go to query. There you will find the selection type. You see that it's already by default set on single select, but we want to make sure that at all times there is a value selected. Why so? It will prevent us from the graphs looking weird when nothing is selected. Okay, proceed and hit save. As I said, we could hit Command E, start looking for the widget where we want to manipulate the code for the binding to form, but the easier way to do that is click on your widget, head to the top right of your screen and go into the advanced editor. I'm not going to spend too much time on explaining the specifics of bindings. Maybe I will do that in a separate video, but you need to know that for this solution, the very first thing you need to do is locate column map both in the widget as the query. Roughly speaking, the widget is more about the formatting of your graph, whereas the query really focuses on what data is feeding my graph. Long story short, what we want is to make the column map empty, well, NULL, both in the widget as in the query. The easiest way to do this is hit column map and close it up. Then it's just easy to make a selection of everything that comes after column map, hit delete and replace it with NULL. Fine, this one's empty. We proceed to query, scroll down and try to find column map there as well. I click on column map, collapse, select the mustachios, delete NULL. Alright, this roughly means that no interactions are going on anymore, but now, and that's the tricky part, we want to make sure that the group by becomes dynamic. It literally says groups, so at this point product family is the partition of my graph. This is the part I want to replace with a binding. In the past, we would need to type here this thing, and if you want to learn more about this, I'll put a recommendation link in the comments to start learning. But for the task here, what we want is to replace this part by an actual binding. Well, not only this part, also these two brackets surrounding product family. How do you proceed with this? Well, the first thing is, where do the values come from? As you remember, our toggle is called static1. Alright, then we're going to grab the values we want to parse into the code from a column, and that column is called, remember, the group by column. Do notice how this editor provides and builds the code that we're going to parse in here as we go. Even more, the output of that binding is being displayed right here. So here we see a list of 3 values, but we'll make sure that only one of them gets parsed. We're going to go back to complete our binding specification. We're going to hit selection, because remember, we set the toggle to one selection required. So you see that the product family value is being set to default right here. Then, last but not least, define it as object. What does it mean, the binding we want? Well, we've built a piece of code that returns a value we want to insert right here. Make sure you don't copy it from here, but that you copy it from here, because copying it will generate a slightly different code than hitting Ctrl Z, and it will turn your JSON invalid. So let's go. I'm gonna hit copy. I'm going to select everything here, minus the 2 dots, Ctrl V, and we're going to put this part between brackets. Very important, check here visually whether your JSON stays valid or not. I'm gonna hit preview and check. And as you can see, we successfully have made the partition of our first graph dynamically, making use of a static query. So far, so good. Let's do this trick one more time. I'm gonna click on my second widget, go to the top right of my screen. First thing, you'll get the hang of this pretty quickly. Go and find the column map collapse and remove everything from the closing curly brackets to the opening curly brackets. Something like this. Hit delete, replace it with annual L. Good. Do the same thing in query. Scroll down. Find column map, hit it, collapse, remove, and ULL. Fine. And now we need to do the same thing again, but the situation is a little bit different because instead of deleting everything that's in the group specification, we're only going to replace the product family part because the second partition of our graph should stay product name. So I'm gonna select this one and I'm gonna build my binding. Good, here we go again. We start from our static toggle. We're going to get the values from a column. That column is called group by, and we're going to say that the default selection can be the one coming from the toggle, which is single selection required, and it can be formatted so it returns an object. The binding is built. We head to the right side and hit copy. It will copy our little piece of code. Yes, it's just the same code we just created a minute ago. I'm just trying to get you guys some familiarity with the process of doing so. I'm gonna select product family, Ctrl V, put it between double quotes, hit save, and save here as well. I'm gonna preview, and ta-da! We are where we want to be. Now feel free to tidy stuff up. You see that you lose the color coding because you have specified them for product family, you haven't specified them for type, etc, etc. But at the end of the day, we have accomplished the interaction we needed to do for week 4. Thank you very much and see you next week. Ooh, I almost forgot the dynamic title. Let me quickly show you how we do that. Drag down the graphs, give some space. We need to have a text widget. I'm gonna give it some space like this. Just click on your widget and here we're going to put something dynamic. So we're going to click add query. Our query is the value that comes from static or toggle. We're going to select the group by field and we want to show what is selected. If we hit done, we can already proceed. It actually works. Billing country, etc. Now the only thing I see is those underscores. We don't want to have them. So do notice that we can also grab the actual display values, which are neater formatted. Make sure you hit selection and then for completeness, discount by display, save. There you go. See you guys next week.